Mob Entertainment just announced The Nightmare Critters coming to Poppy Playtime Chapter 4, and I wanted to go through and deep dive into each of them because I believe they hold the secret to finding out where Poppy Playtime Chapter 4 takes place before it comes out. Oh, and it's not where everybody is saying it is. I mean, it is, but like, those places lead up to this other place. So, subscribe so you don't miss it. For now, we're just going to be deep diving into each of the Nightmare Critters, so we have all the info in one place, and maybe you can guess where I think it takes place before I post my next video. We'll go in the order the Nightmare Critters were released, and I'll structure each one the same way. We'll start with a physical description of what the critter looks like, including the pendant around their neck, then I'll read the description provided by Mob along with their scent. Afterwards, we'll deep dive into any symbolism, folklore, or history to find out more about each critter that isn't included in the description. This is basically like step 1 in theory crafting, the deep dive. Our first nightmare critter is Baba Chops. Baba Chops is a black sheep with dark gray puffy wool covering her bone white face, which has a wide dark smile similar to the smiling critters. But unlike the smiling critters, she has actual teeth. And the pendant on her necklace is a skull. Scent is anise. Baba Chop's description reads, the black sheep of the bunch. Baba prefers to keep her space, like a lot of space. Too much space. She can be distant, quiet, low energy, and it usually requires a lot of coaxing to get her out of the house. Luckily for her, she has some very persistent friends. She usually perks up after a while, but the next day we're right back to the same tune. So, Baba Chops is a shy, introverted recluse who doesn't like to hang out. Typical angsty teen. The only reason she will ever leave her place of comfort is because of her convincing friends. Having been an angsty, reclusive teen before, I'm a little worried about her friends being persistent, and I kind of feel like they're just bullies. They're probably just bullies, right? Nightmare critters, bullies, because staying in is weird and it's embarrassing to be friends with a person like that, so they're definitely bullies. Being a black sheep of a family or group is described as being embarrassing, a disgrace, or worthless. So perhaps Baba Chops will be the outcast of the Nightmare Critters, just trying to prove herself to them and fit in. There's also the phrase wolf in sheep's clothing that actually stems from an idiom in the Bible, which refers to someone evil pretending to be righteous and a part of the group in order to attack from the inside. This is an interesting thing to note because in the cinematic trailer, it looks as if the skull around Baba's neck isn't a necklace, but like a charm on a zipper, which goes all the way down her front. So maybe it means she is a wolf in sheep's clothing. She's playing both sides, so she always comes out on top. Her being a sheep, which is just an older lamb, is also interesting because in the story so far, Chapter 3, posted by the Mob Games YouTube channel, the narrator, who we officially don't know the name of, but it definitely sounds like Harley Sawyer, the doctor. The narrator ends the video as we are going down the final lift with the line,
"Down they come, like lambs to the slaughter."
Cue evil laughter. Lambs to the slaughter is a metaphor that describes a person being led into a dangerous situation without being aware of what's happening, usually by trickery or deception, which further supports Baba Chops being something other than what she's shown to be. However, while I believe Baba will be evil, I think her story will be a pretty sad one actually, because the final metaphor of lambs I want to bring up is the sacrificial lamb. In the olden times, people would often sacrifice a lamb for the common good of the people. So Baba Chops could think she's playing both sides, helping out her friends, while the prototype, or somebody else, has other plans for her. Speaking of playing tricks and being deceitful, you thought I wasn't gonna bring this up, huh? Her name, Baba Chops. Literally the perfect name. Baba Chops. Chops, lamb chops. Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga eats kids, and we see Baba Chops eating Little Dog Day, which, in case you forgot, is a kid. And if we know anything about Baba Yaga on my channel, we know she's tricksy. She plays mind games. So I'm willing to bet Baba Chops is not who she seems. As for her scent,
You haven't thought of the smell, you bitch!
Baba smells like anise, which I had no idea what it was, so I looked it up. Anise is a flower used in fragrances, baked goods, and even alcohol. But it also has been used since the dawn of time as a natural medicine. As a medicine for farting. Anise also has a few other uses, like curing sleeplessness, and its seeds were used as an appetite stimulant or tranquilizer. So maybe what Baba Chop's smell helps her friends not eat so much down there in the aftermath of the Hour of Joy, which would be a Pretty useful power to have, given the circumstances. And back when steam engines were first invented, engineers would use anise as a warning to let them know if the train's engine was overheating, which could lead to it blowing up. But it's not like Bob Chops is around anything flammable or fire or anything. Anyway, moving on to the next nightmare critter, we have Icky Licky. He is a yellow poison dart frog with black and yellow skin. Same big, dark, smiling mouth. No teeth. But he does have little froggy toes. Froggy toes, froggy toes, froggy toes, froggy toes. The pendant around his neck is a biohazard symbol. Scent is coffee. Icky Licky's description reads, Icky's the type of kid to fall behind in a relay race and immediately pin it on a sore knee, even when that's not the case. He's the very definition of a poor sport. Even though he's naturally talented, he is constantly challenging anyone on absolutely everything, and usually without the outcome he expects. Don't worry, he has an excuse ready. I am so bummed. The frog critter is a total turd. Everyone hates that guy that's like, yeah, you win this race, but it's only because I hurt my pinky last week, and also Baba Chops is here watching, so I just could not. It's sad because you know Icky Licky is only like that because he's insecure and just wants his friends to think he's cool, but in doing all these challenges, he's just putting them down and making them feel bad. Being friends with Icky Licky must be so toxic. Because Icky Licky is a poison dart frog, which are known to be toxic. Can't you see? Poison dart frogs are brightly colored to ward predators that eating them will hurt them. The toxins the frog secretes interfere with nerve impulses, which lead to heart failure or fibrillation, which is irregular or too quick of heartbeat. Which is the reason Icky Licky's scent is coffee, because the caffeine in coffee, when consumed in excess, can cause heart problems, and his name is Icky Licky because he's poisonous. He's not dangerous until you lick him. Unfortunately, unlike the sheep, poison dart frogs don't really pop up too much in literature and metaphors and whatnot. Mostly what they represent is not trusting things you think are pretty or cool looking, because they can still hurt you. Similar to a wolf in sheep's clothing. Wonder if we're gonna see a pattern here. Next on our list is my favorite critter, Raby Baby. She's a white bat with pink ears, wings, legs, and she's got some dark pink eyeliner. But most importantly, she's got teeth! They look like my cat's teeth and I love them. The pendant around her neck is a drop of blood, although I definitely thought it was a drumstick, like a chicken leg. Her scent is bubblegum. Her description reads, Raby Baby couldn't keep a secret if her life depended on it. If there's one thing in the world she loves, it's gossiping, and she is very practiced at it. She has no concept of privacy or boundaries, and if she's in the room, you can bet she's eavesdropping on someone. Don't worry, if she ever runs out of juicy secrets to talk about, she'll just make some up. She just made that up. So she gossips like crazy and even makes up lies to do so. But I think the most interesting part of Raby Baby's description is the fact that she constantly eavesdrops on conversations not meant for her. I'll bet in this next chapter, she'll be hiding in the dark, lurking around every corner, listening to us as we are led further down the factory, like lambs to the slaughter. What kind of bat she is specifically, I think she's an albino vampire bat because of the blood drop. Vampire bats are the only type of bat to be able to sustain themselves on the blood of other creatures. In literature and other media, bats often symbolize darkness, death, and obscurity, and the Bible calls them the birds of the devil, an incarnation of the prince of darkness, a messenger of the nightmare world, which is sick as fuck. Also, like so on brand, we saw a ton of nightmare themes in Chapter 3 with catnap's gas causing horrific hallucinations and nightmares. And in relation to seeing horrifying things that aren't actually there, Raby Baby's name tells us a lot too. She's got the sickness. Wah! Rabies is bad. It is a fatal viral disease transmitted through blood, hence the blood pendant, that affects the central nervous system, causing erratic, aggressive behavior, hallucination, self-mutilation, hydrophobia, as well as a loss of the fear of natural enemies. For one, hydrophobia is so freaking scary. Like, rabies tricks your brain into thinking that water is poison, and your brain won't let you drink water. I couldn't. No. And rabies just makes you big, dumb, stupid. It makes you think your natural predators, the antagonists of the story, if you will, are no big deal, when in fact, they are. Imagine Raby Baby gives us rabies, then we see the big, scary prototype who's like this big, disgusting conglomerate mess of monsters and all, and we're just standing up there like, sup? And then he just goes, no, thank you. Raby Baby's name points us in an obvious direction, but her scent, bubblegum, bubblegum is so pleasant. Everyone loves the smell of bubblegum, and it hides nothing bad the way anise or coffee does. And I just feel like something called the nightmare critters have to have secret bad things about them. So I did some digging. Like I do. Found something interesting that could fit. The era of music from 1967 to 1972 was known as the bubblegum era of music. Coincidentally, this is around the same time Elliot Ludwig founded Playcare, which is where the Smiling Critters and I assume the Nightmare Critters are, so... It is described as disposable pop music appealing to preteens with that intangible bubblegum sound. Bubblegum pop was meant to be sold and marketed easily with simplistic, childish, poppy just to sell the record. And a thing I forgot to mention earlier that's pretty relevant here is that bats use echolocation to hunt their prey. Sound. Music is sound. Music is bubblegum pop. And that's my only reason that I found for Raby Baby to have bubblegum as her smell, because it obviously can't just be because she's pink and bubblegum's pink. It's not just that. For sure. Up next is Alistair Gator. He is a green alligator, obviously, who has a whole mouth of teeth with the front four being especially pointy. He wears a crossbones as a pendant, and his scent is sandalwood. Alistair's description reads, Alistair is an all-around lazy guy. He's chill, sure, but if he could, he'd spend all day in the water doing pretty much nothing. He isn't a fan of the whole put in effort and see that effort rewarded bit. He's much more a believer of the philosophy, good things have to come to me. Eventually. I just need to wait around for it. He's still waiting. Oh man. It's so easy to just write Alistair Gator off as a lazy dude who won't do anything in the next chapter. But like, imagine him as a bigger body with like this huge gaping maw that we walk into and then we don't notice where we are until it's too late. And it's just... It's like that worm from SpongeBob.
Oh, this is the tongue.
It does look like there's a sewer system with subterranean caves around here, so maybe. Other than that, I'm not really getting much from his description. But in literature, alligators symbolize primal instincts. They embody an unwavering connection to their intuitive senses and innate survival instincts. So maybe Alistair's instincts to wait a long time will pay off. His scent is sandalwood, which is a lovely decadent scent that has been used for centuries in funeral ceremonies and dark religious rites. Yep, more death, yep, death. Oh, hey, you know what also has to do with death? Alistair's pendant. The crossbones around his neck represent death, and paired with a Baba-chopped skull to make a skull and crossbones, that symbol is a super sign of death. Like, death, even more death. It's also used on chemical warning labels to show the compound is toxic and will kill you. Very similar to Icky Lickies. And I would say all the critters' pendants are death and decay and blood, it's scary. But the next nightmare critter on our list totally squashes that thought. That's right, the most likely leader of the nightmare critters, Simon Smoke. Simon, without a doubt the coolest critter of the group, is a friggin' dragon. A red winged dragon with golden horns and spikes going down his back and tail. He also has piercings on his ear and his eyebrow. This dude's got riz for days. Like the fierce dragon he is, Simon displays 4 sharp teeth. But his pendant is really lame. It's a giant golden dollar sign, and his scent is wood smoke. Simon's description is, Simon Smoke knows he's cool and popular, and he makes sure nobody ever forgets it. Whether showing off for friends or just bragging about one of his accomplishments, it's always a popularity contest with him. Almost always, he wins. And in truth, he's a colossal jerk, but he does have a knack for getting away with being one. And as much as I want to rag on him for being such an arrogant jerk, that's pretty on brand for dragons. In the Monster Manual for D&D, a red dragon is described as cunning and destructive. They are Tiamat's favorite children, embodying the worst that dragonkind has to offer. Picture your older sibling that knows their mom and dad's favorite, and they'll let you know they're the favorite every single freaking chance that they get. That's Simon Smoke. And when building a red dragon for a D&D campaign, you can choose personality traits based off the line, the worship of smaller creatures pleases me. Though their weakness is pathetic, how can they do other than adore me? Which further backs up why Simon's personality is described the way it is. His pendant being a golden dollar sign is just another symbol of his arrogance and self-grandeur. But something else I haven't seen anyone notice that I'm not going to talk too much about because I'm going to go into it more for my next theory video on why I think I know where chapter 4 takes place after the prison and everything. We know it's a prison, but there's more stuff. There's more stuff after. I promise. Across most of fantasy media, dragons are known to live deep within a lair, looming over a massive hoard of treasure. And that was the first thing I noticed with the new trailer. old trailer now. I even commented on, like, I don't know, Terrico or SuperhorrorBro's video. I was like, oh yeah, it kind of reminds me of, like, a dragon's horde. I wonder if the big antagonist will be a dragon. And No, I don't think Simon Smoke will be the main antagonist. I saw a mob say the nightmare critters aren't the main ones. Simon isn't the main bad guy, but there's a thing it's in my next video, I promise. Anyway, Simon Smoke's scent is wood smoke. He's a dragon, and dragons breathe fire, but it's not like there's fire anywhere in the factory. And his scent is wood smoke, which is incredibly toxic to everything, which is tying back to all the other nightmare critters having a toxic scent. All right, 3 left. Next up is Poe, who is a dark purple raven. You might think Poe is a crow because they rhyme, but no. And I will tell you why in a mo. They have cute tufts of purple feathers around their face and neck. No teeth, but they do sport a sharp-looking purple beak, and the pendant around their neck is a dark storm cloud with a lightning bolt. Scent is cinnamon. Poe's description reads as follows. Poe hates the sun and thinks it's a cruel trick of nature that the world needs it in the first place. Most comfortable in the dark, they spend their nights hanging around graveyards, listening to music and feeling vaguely angry at nothing in particular, and they insist it is not a phase. So Poe's the goth kid of the group. They go to graveyards to hang out, they listen to music, probably the latest Metallica album, and think the world sucks. Poe is a raven because that's like the quintessential goth animal. What animal is more goth than a raven? Name one. You can't. In literature and other media, ravens are known to be a bad omen, or messengers of death, which is shown exquisitely by Edgar Allan Poe in his poem, The Raven. The Raven is a poem about a dude who lost his beloved Lenore, and this raven comes tapping at his chamber door, repeating, "Nevermore," to him to remind the man that he will never move on from this tragic heartbreak, which drives him to utter despair and madness. As with most of Poe's work, the poem ends on a less than happy note, with the man being overcome with and defeated by grief and the shadow of the raven. All is to say, that's who Poe is. A raven, not a crow. Poe's a raven. Ravens represent prophecy and insight. They symbolize death and are known as keepers of secrets. And, most notably, ravens eat dead things. Like, I don't know, massive mounds of dead critters? I think the storm cloud around their neck represents the impending destruction coming to us as we delve deeper into the factory. Like the raven, as a messenger of bad omens, a storm cloud in the distance warns you of the chaos and destruction to come. Their scent is cinnamon, delicious in a tea, but also for embalming mummies. Yeah. The ancient Egyptians used cinnamon in the preservation of bodies during mummification, and royal poop heads from back in the day in ye olden times, when they died, would use cinnamon in their funeral pyre so all the little peasants can smell how rich they were, because the spice was so wildly expensive then. So during that time frame, cinnamon would remind people of death, much like a raven would. And moving on to the second to last nightmare critter, Tui. Tui is a gray rat with big old pink ears, nose, and a little pink rat tail. His left ear does look like a little bite has been taken out of it, and he's got teeth, specifically 2 buck teeth on the front top part of his mouth. His pendant is a fishbone skeleton. His scent is petrichor. His description is Tui, it's pronounced Tui, is a self-proclaimed trash rodent. When he's not busy eating and collecting garbage, he's a lively conversationalist. He talks a lot, which is made all the more surprising by him having shockingly little to say. If you ever need someone to provide insightful commentary or some random piece of junk, Tui's your guy. Tui's a punk who won't stop talking even when he has no idea what he's talking about, especially when he has no idea what he's talking about. In literature, rats represent disease and death, betrayal and treachery. They're used to create a sense of horror. His name is fun, though. Tui? I know what you're thinking. Oh, he's a rat, Tui. No. Well, I mean, yes, but no. I realized when I was reading the script out loud that his name actually sounds like the onomatopoeia for spitting. Patui. Which lines up with his talking a bunch without saying anything, because all that comes out of his mouth is spit. And he'd be the type of guy to spit in your food, which is so fun. Tui. Spit actually ties into his smell, too. Petrichor is a pleasant smell of rainfall and dry soil. Spitting is sometimes used as like a euphemism for rain, like, oh, the sky is spitting. Now, petrichor is described as a pleasant smell, However, it's not what the smell is that's important, it's what it does. Scientists have learned the smell of petrichor leads cattle to find water to drink. Tui is a trash rat, so he makes trash smell pleasant, which leads to sickness and plague. As for his pendant, Tui wears a fishbone around his neck, and in different media, fish skeletons like this are often used as a warning of dangerous places. Speaking of fish, we've finally come to the last of the nightmare critters, the shark goober herself, Maggie Mako. Maggie is a blue Mako shark with a wide, sharp, toothy grin, with a tail and dorsal fin. Around her neck is a tan-colored shark tooth, and her smell is chocolate. Chocolate, ooh ha ha. Her description reads, Maggie is always thinking about her belly. She's happiest with food in her mouth, and believe us, she is not picky. She loves sweets, but veggies? Ugh. Don't be surprised if she takes your healthy eating habits advice with a dabble of sugar, some chocolate syrup, whipped cream, and a big cherry on top, all while laughing at you profusely. Okay, so I've read Maggie's description so many times, and I just don't understand it. One sentence says she's definitely not picky, but the next sentence says she refuses to eat vegetables. That would make her at least a little picky, right? Unless it's just a reference to Picky Piggy, so they would be saying, like, Maggie's not Picky Piggy, which, yeah, we know. She's a shark, and Piggy's a pig. So I just don't know why they put that line in her description. If you know, please let me know your thoughts below, because I am lost. Maggie loves eating sweets so much that she smells like chocolate. My thoughts on how the chocolate smell could be a bad thing to lamp with the others is that the chocolate is deadly toxic to animals like cats and dogs, like cat day, like dog day and catnap. Also, there's a very popular river made out of chocolate in the story Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Her smell could be a reference to that since she is a shark in a factory and sharks live in bodies of water. Maggie is a Mako shark, the fastest shark in the sea. They hunt their prey by swimming under them and then torpedoing themselves up, taking a massive bite of their underside, which is interesting because Maggie has her own tooth around her neck. Maybe it's supposed to be like an intimidation factor, like, wow, look how scary I am. Bah. Also, with all the sugar she eats, I bet you it has a cavity in there. Brush your teeth, kids. Maggie's name doesn't really give much. It could be short for Margaret, and for her sake, I hope not. No offense to any Margarets out there. Or Magdalene, which is a name from the Bible, and we've seen religious references quite a bit lately in Poppy Playtime, with Catnap worshipping the prototype as his god. So maybe that's what her name is referencing? But I guess we'll see when Chapter 4 releases. The inner workings of Playtime Co. keep feeling more and more like a religious cult the more we learn about the factory and everyone left. So I'm very excited to see just how dark Chapter 4 will be. But that's the end of this video. If you stayed until the end, thank you. Genuinely. Making these videos is so fun for me, even though I'm so slow. So I do sincerely appreciate anyone actually watching them. If you want to see my video where I explain the Poppy Playtime Employees Handbook, click the video here. I will say I'm going back to the handbook for my next video to explain where Chapter 4 takes place, along with the info I learned about the nightmare critters. So you might want to watch it so it's fresh in your brain. Until then, I'm MatPat. I'm an anime and video game voice actor by day, and an indie horror game theorist by night. Bye-bye.